Yeah, no, definitely. So if you look at nature and you just leave it, even take a paved parking lot of any big supermarket. Imagine you like leave it for 20 years. What happens? It will become a forest naturally. If you look at Chernobyl, the city has become a forest. It just happens. That's how nature works. If you don't clean your gutter, there will be trees growing into them if you wait for maybe even a year or two. It goes pretty fast. So everything becomes a forest. We have clients that are billionaires, and we have clients that are just regular Janes and Joes. But it's the same raspberry bush we put there. We don't put like a 1 million raspberry bush. They still don't exist, fortunately. So it's the same raspberry bush. So whether you're a billionaire or average person, you can have a billionaire's breakfast. There is no place in the world where you're gonna be able.
So, Louis, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, can you just give a description for everybody out there?
Yeah, I'm a landscape designer. We make properties more beautiful, make it contribute to our planet, make them contribute to the climate, but most of all, make them contribute to a better life for people. My goal in life is to regenerate as many acres of land as possible. And so, besides designing landscapes, I also write books and make movies to spread the word because people don't know a lot of things that are super interesting and yeah, it's super cool to know actually.
And that's where my episode stems from. It's my curiosity. And you certainly piqued my curiosity in terms of your journey across from Canada to Panama. What have, what have you seen in the difference in food structures across the three different countries? Or the two different?
Oh yeah, it's very very interesting. So when you go to the United States, it's of course it's not one country. It's a lot of different states, so a lot of different cultures, and it's nice to see so many influences from other parts of the world. So you have the Latin influences, the Mexican food, but also the Italian influences of the Italian immigrants. But a lot of it has been lost because of uniformization. So yeah, there's a lot of fast food in the United States, also in Canada. And if you go more below, if you go, for example, to Mexico, you see that they eat a lot more vegetables, that they have a lot more vegetables on the market. They do still eat a lot of meat, like 3 times a day for breakfast, even a lot, which I don't understand how people can eat so much meat in the morning. And the more south you go, all the way to Panama, you see the diversity of like local food craftsmanship that has been lost in United States or Canada and even in some places in Europe as well. So it's interesting to see that the more northern you go, the more disconnected we are with the land, which is I think a bit sad because we need that connection. If you go more south, then you see the old ladies taking the corn and taking all the little things out of the corn stalk. So yeah, you see that they're much closer to it, and because of the distance that we have, yeah, we lose out on a lot of things, and also we lose out on the taste because if you eat a tomato in Mexico or a tomato in the United States, I'm never gonna buy a tomato in a supermarket in the United States or Canada or Europe or any industrialized country. They don't even taste like tomatoes. They look like tomatoes, but they taste like
My
nothing.
favorite ketchup comes from Cuba, so I completely understand. In terms of what you saw, like, do you have an understanding of why the Western cultures have kind of seceded from the agricultural side of things?
Yeah, there's a proven track record on why that happened, and it's mostly profit driven actually. The most brilliant minds today are not solving the world's problems, but are hired by huge food corporations that say, okay, I have this soft drink. If I'm gonna put this amount of sugar in it, then they will have a sugar high, but then they will crash and then they won't drink my soda anymore. If I put the sugar level too low, it won't be as addictive. But if I put it just on the right spot, then it's going to be just enough to keep them addicted and hooked. So not too high, not too low. So they keep on drinking the soda or eating that yogurt. If you buy yogurt, industrialized yogurt, there's a lot of sugars in it as well. And that's not just with sodas or yogurt, it's with every processed food. There is this huge machine behind it. And how can we make people more addicted to it? And the marketing machine behind it is also super big. Inspire people to buy processed foods and don't cook yourselves anymore. Don't get me wrong, I love processed foods. I'm a super lazy cook, so if I can just buy a deep pizza and just put it in my oven and eat it, I'm the happiest man in the world if it's a good pizza, if it's, for example, an organic one, because it's never about the pizza or the hamburger, it's what you put in it. And then you have the same problem again with profit-driven companies, is that they literally every little milligram that they can switch to something that's just a little bit cheaper, they will do it. And then you end up with buying a cake where you have 80 different ingredients, which is crazy because if my grandmother bakes a cake, she uses 4 ingredients.
Very fair. Capitalism ruined quite a bit of things. Do you see a push for more agricultural independence, like getting back to fertilizing the land and making sure like we're focusing towards that? Like, are you seeing that shift? I just worry because I'm so into this side of the happy, optimistic side of the internet now that I don't know what's true. So I always like to ask if the feelings out there is mutual. Movie you made around this. How did you come about creating this movie, this documentary?
Yeah, so the movie is called Eat More Trees, and the title says it all. We need to eat more trees, and not literally necessarily eat trees, but tree products, which can be tree leaves as well. I can go deeper into that if you want to later on. And it's about the role of trees in agriculture. Often there has been this myth going around that agriculture and trees don't fit well together for the last 50 years. But if you look at the past, and you can still see it in some agricultural landscapes in United Kingdom, for example, or in France, where you see this beautiful fields with hedgerows around them, then that gives so much benefits to farmers. And the movie is a show about showing farmers that it's possible to grow huge amounts of food with much more nutrition, which is much more resilient because of the trees, and is helping to literally cool down the planet and to even create rain, which is very much needed in the drought problem era we are in. And so we filmed in the Amazon rainforest, we filmed in the United States, in the Netherlands, in Spain, in the United Kingdom. So really diverse parts of the world to show that it's possible in any climate to add trees to agricultural lands and have so much benefits.
I know there's some. I've been watching studies on how the roots grow deeper, the more biodiversity there is, because it's forced to. It's forced to try and stand ground against all of the other encroaching roots. There was a question I had on that. I'm just kind of losing where I was going with it. Can we? Can you explain the concept of a food forest for people? Like, so you depicted land with hedges around, but when I'm thinking food forest, it's more you've got wild flowers as well as things you're cultivating. Can you elaborate into what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So if you look at nature and you just leave it, even take a paved parking lot of any big supermarket. Imagine you like leave it for 20 years, what happens? It will become a forest naturally. If you look at Chernobyl, the city has become a forest. It just happens. That's how nature works. If you don't clean your gutter, there will be trees growing into them if you wait for maybe even a year or two. It goes pretty fast. So everything becomes a forest. Forest, you don't need to fertilize them, you don't need to water them, you don't need to maintain them. They just grow, and they're the biggest producers of biomass you can imagine. If you look at our current agriculture, most of our food is based on annuals, plants that only live 1 year. If you have a vegetable garden, you know what I'm talking about, because at the end of the season, you harvested everything and you have bare ground. Nothing is left. So I was doing an internship on a farm, young guy. I had the ambition of becoming a farmer. I was harvesting leek. It was minus 2 degrees Celsius. And when I was harvesting that leek, I realized that next year I was going to have to need to replant it again. And next year again and again. And so every time you have to disturb the soil, and it's super bad for the soil. But at the same time, I was reading a book about a 4,000-year-old chestnut tree on the Etna volcano. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to become a farmer, what I'm going to do, like for the next 4,000 years, I'm going to like harvest this leek year after year after year after year, or just sit under that chestnut tree and have the chestnuts fall on my lap without having to do anything. for 4,000 years potentially. So then the idea was, yeah, well, why not base our entire agriculture system on trees? And then you get into like the best of both worlds. You have forest and food, and then you get a food forest. And of course, a food forest is not the same as a natural forest. It's more like a forest edge, because at the edge there is what the interesting things are happening. You have the forest. Let's say they have 100 different species. You have a meadow that has 100 different species. When they meet each other, you don't have 200 different species, but you have maybe 1,000 different species. It's exponential when two ecosystems meet. So these forest edges, they have like small bushes such as raspberries, for example, below strawberries, then smaller shrubs, then smaller trees, then medium trees, and super big trees. And so you have like this staircase of different layers towards the sun. So you actually create a vertical farm. That's what the true meaning of vertical farming should be. And that you just have to recreate that edge like row after row after row to make sure you have like the optimum sun that gets into it. So you have optimum photosynthesis. And so it's as important, because you need the sun to have open spaces in a food forest as closed spaces, because you always need the sun to be able to come in. And then if you want me to go a little bit more technical, of course, the closer you get to the equator, the closer you can put the trees next to each other, because the sun is much more, the rays are much more condensed. So you get much more solar radiation and equator than, for example, in Canada. In Canada, you have to put the trees a little bit further away from each other because the sun is at a lower angle. And if you put them too close, then some trees might not have enough sun. So yeah, a food forest is a place you can have on, let's say, 10,000 hectares or acres, but you can also just have it in your backyard, even if it's like only 100 square meters. Like even on 1 square meter, you can have the same food forest principles. And so a lot of our clients, they can just now open their back door, get out, grab some berries, put it in their granola or in their fruit juice or in their smoothie. And then every morning they have like the best juice or granola you can imagine. And that's what I like about it. A food forest is something very democratically. We have clients that are billionaires, and we have clients that are just regular Janes and Joes. But it's the same raspberry bush we put there. We don't put like a 1 million raspberry bush. They still don't exist, fortunately. So it's the same raspberry bush. So whether you're a billionaire or average person, you can have a billionaire's breakfast, you know? There is no place in the world where you're gonna be able to find a better, more healthy raspberry than the one in your own backyard. So that's like super empowering.
It's funny because I moved out to Newfoundland just last year and didn't know this, but people forage for berries here. Like the food is fresher. It's because it's harder to trek it over to the island. So we tend to grow it more here. And yes, the food is fresher. It tastes better. It's made by actual farmers here. And it's interesting the difference, because I lived in Ontario where it was all processed and came in from everywhere. How do we make this kind of the standard? Like how do we promote this so that we stop taking these systems for what they are? What I mean is, how do we promote doing this on our own, especially around like individuals like us that would just rather put something in the oven, wait a few minutes, and then it be done? How do we get past that?
Well, I think there are multiple pathways to get there. One of the maybe most simple things you can do is to inspire people uh, by just like if you show up at work and you say, "Oh, look, I've just made this cookies myself, and there is some berries in it that I just foraged," then people are like, "Oh my freaking god, how cool is that? I want to do the same." Even me, I work in food all day, but I have this crazy colleague who makes the most delicious crazy stuff with cans, or she makes fruit leather, or and then we have this in our work environment, like Slack, this kind of internal messaging system. And then in our inspirational channel, she'll from time to time send this picture of, "Oh, now I made like 200 liters of this," or "Now I made 5 kilograms of this." And I'm like, oh gosh. So I was so inspired by it that I said, okay, now I'm gonna do the same. And I bought this special canning thing to make yeah, couple of, I think maybe 10 liters of tomato sauce, really delicious organic tomatoes. And it's the best tomato sauce that you can get. You can't buy that in a supermarket. And And that's inspiration, and that really works. The other thing which I heavily promote is make it easy for other people. Start a business in for example, this very good tomato sauce, or for example, chestnuts, one of my favorites. You can make so much things with chestnut pancakes, chestnut pizzas, cookies, whiskey. It's just crazy what you can make out of chestnuts. Like if I'm in a supermarket and I can just choose, oh, I'm gonna take this chestnut cake or I'm gonna take this regular cake, it doesn't cost me any effort. And it's also to eat it, it's also zero effort. Like I in my local organic supermarket, I can buy chestnut cookies, and these are delicious. So I'm already doing better for the world, and of course for my health as well, and for the taste, for my taste as well. And it doesn't cost me any effort, and I'm a huge fan of that because I know how busy lives can be. My life is incredibly busy. I travel a lot. I'm a lot abroad. I'm racing from here to there, and then I don't have the time to spend 7 hours in the kitchen to make some crazy thing with chestnuts and peeling them all. No, I just want to go to the store and buy those freaking cookies, and that's it.
Yeah, and I promote that too. I think the next expansion of food distribution is going to be localized creation, but at scale. So you're essentially going to take your franchise. It's going to be a franchise model essentially, where you can just tap it into the market. You grow your own fruit, you grow your own things, you do this, and then it goes into the supermarkets. Do you see with tech any benefits coming out to be able to do this on a grander scale? So, fun fact, I actually have a business plan put together that's a self-sustaining grocery store,
Oh,
an
cool.
acroponics grocery store. I'll send it to you with everything. You can take a look at it. But essentially, it's bringing down the food production to the local level. Do you see
Okay.
technology being able to do that? Being able to really getting away from the supermarket model where what's on the shelf is a sale, it's a promotional item.
Yeah.
It's not food.
Yeah.
It's promotion.
It's true.
Getting back to where a grocery store is serving its true purpose of selling food.
No, I think technology can definitely play a big role in it. You already see it. So a lot of things in regenerative organic farming are now possible thanks to technology. Direct seeding, for example, that didn't exist 100 years ago. So right now you can just have a tractor with the front end, you have a roller crimper that crushes the green manures you've planted. And at the same time, at the same passage, you direct seed without having to tilling or plowing the soil. You direct seed the next crop. Then you don't have to pass again with your tractor until the harvest because you don't spray anymore because you used nature's technology. And that's a big thing. I love technology, but only if it's needed. Why pay for fertilizers or pesticides if you can have nature's technology do the work for you? So it needs to be a good balance. So you don't have to spray, you don't have to do anything. Next time you harvest, the front of your tractor and with the back of your tractor, again, you direct seed the next green manure, which will help to refertilize your soil before you plant in your next crop. So you only have to pass once with your tractor because of this technology. That's incredible. If you look at food forestry or agroforestry, for example, right now a lot of work still needs to be done by hand. If you have a monoculture, it's easy for machines to just don't have to think, they just have to harvest it, and that's it. But if you have food forest with 20 different fruits and nuts, then you really need a smarter machine to do it. And thanks to artificial intelligence, thanks to robotics, we're going to be able to really scale agroforestry and food forestry. So complexity in farming will really skyrocket because of that, and we really need that. So I truly believe that's going to be a game changer.
So I want to go the flip side on this. Do you worry that technology is going to go too far? Like I'm seeing things out of China now that are compartmentalized modules that grow the food. Do you worry that we're going to go too far and just stop feeding off the land and just into these manufactured green tubes, essentially?
Yeah, I really don't fear that because it's too expensive. If you look at vertical farming or indoor farming, and even a lot of aquaponic systems, really sorry for that, they've gone bust because there's nothing as cheap as the sun, and there's nothing as cheap as a real soil with microorganisms helping the plants. We don't realize that plants they don't grow on their own. They need microorganisms to grow, and they are providing all the work for free if we just let them and create good conditions for them. So yeah, a vertical farm, you need buildings, you need LED lighting, you need a lot of electricity, and all these things need a lot of work. It's artificial, so you need to have quasi sterile conditions. And so, of course, it's good that they're experimenting with it. And I can imagine if you want to send a spaceship to Mars or to even further, and you're 3 years in a rocket or in a spaceship, then of course, then it would be amazing to have this kind of tubes to grow your food. Also, scientifically, see, very interesting to just test out things. But there's nothing that goes above like real food grown in a real soil that had a connection with real microorganisms. But because we need these microorganisms for our own health as well. It's not just the plants that need them, we need them. If we eat sterile food, our gut will become sterile. And our gut is the reason we exist and are healthy. They prevent disease. They even create happiness. 90% of our happiness hormone, serotonin, is created in our gut. And guess who creates that happiness hormone? It's all these little microorganisms. But if you keep on spraying your food, yeah, where are these microorganisms going to come from? They are now going away. And that's why almost 1 in 3 people in the Western world have a chronic disease. A lot of chronic diseases start in our guts, and that doesn't happen if you have a very living soil.
Very fair. I sometimes look too far into the future and I see that space paradigm playing out in our lifetime. It's ridiculous at what we're going to get to experience. And I'm just so excited and so terrified and just a bunch of emotions. So let's get into your landscape design company. How does a typical project unfold for you?
Well, it always starts with a dream. Somehow our message of regeneration resonates with the landowner, and or they've read one of the books I've written, or saw one of the movies we made, or saw a keynote I gave, or just heard about us, and their dream to do something with their land resonates with what we offer and our vision, which is very pronounced. And so we, of course, come together and really dream together with the client. Like first dream very big, but then look at the reality, of course. And then the next steps are somewhere in between that crazy dream and somewhere in reality, because not all dreams are achievable, but also a lot of reality is not ambitious enough. So it's somewhere in between. A lot of people also don't dare to dream. And sometimes it's possible to do much more than that you actually can imagine. A lot of people are saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna run the 5 kilometers. But at the same time, they could run the marathon if they wanted to. So we always say, okay, but you can run 5 kilometers and we're gonna help you with that. But do you want us to help you run a marathon or half a marathon? And then we really delve into the heads or to the souls of our clients and really get to know them, try to think as them, to really feel what they need from a landscape. Do they need rest? Do they need excitement? Do they want lots of food? Do they just want romantic corners? Do they want to play soccer or football with their kids? So they need a big space for that. Or do they have a bed and breakfast or a boutique hotel and they want to create a special space for their clients? Or are they doctors or a psychiatrist or a psychologist that need special calm gardens for their patients to like kind of healing space? So there are just so many different scenarios. And then after we checked all the boxes of what the client really wants, then we're going to look at the nature. What does nature want in that area? For example, if we're working in Argentina or on an island in the Azores or in Spain or the Netherlands or Belgium or USA or Canada, then it's going to be a different things that nature wants. Some plants will grow, some plants will not grow. Maybe there's a lot of wind. Maybe there's seasonality of El Nino and La Nina. Maybe there's a lot of drought periods. So we need to really be good detectives, get to know the soil. I can go on for hours. I'm not going to do that, but it's just this huge list of all the things we need to check and know. And once we know this, then we are this master puzzle piece layers. And then we put all the puzzle pieces together to a beautiful, harmonious design where and nature is happy. I mean, when nature is happy, clients are happy too, because then they have less maintenance and less work. And of course, then clients are happy because we designed something that's really in their vision.
Very, very nice. I lost it again. Sorry about that. It's on the tip of my tongue, and now I can't remember what I was going to say. I do appreciate integrate how you integrate not only the regeneration of the soil and the thing, but also encapsulating the owner.
Oh yes.
The one thing that I've seen so far with all of my talks with all of these people and CEOs and positions has been we need to redefine how business is. It's really more of a personal thing. We need to have these deep connections where we get to understand our clients. When did you figure that? When did you figure out that you needed to be more in touch with your clients as opposed to your own vision?
Well, if we traditionally in architecture or landscape architecture, it's often the ego of the landscape architect that really gets the end result to the end result. And for me, they're not doing their jobs. Of course, it's people are brilliant. There are a lot of brilliant people and brilliant designers out there, and it's good to push your vision, but it's not your house you're designing. It's not your property you're designing. It's the property of the client. So you always need to start from putting the client at the center of everything. Of course, it's also our job to challenge our clients. We are never gonna be sycophant and just say, "Oh yeah, oh fantastic, oh good idea, yeah, let's put the horses next to the swimming pool and blah blah blah." Yeah, that won't be doing our job. So one hand, we really respect the vision of the client, but on the other hand, we really also inspire them with all the insights we've gained from decades of experience, and then find a good balance. Sometimes, of course, we are gonna say, look, we really veto this. If you want to do it, you can do it and we'll go for it, but just know it will fail, it will suck, and it will be your responsibility. So but everybody is free to do what they want, and we also have to respect stubbornness, because sometimes client stubbornness, it has a reason, and they have a good reason to do it, and maybe we are wrong, and that's also something that we need to always leave minimum 1% that maybe we are wrong, and then yeah, so give other things a chance. And then of course, one of the things that we do then is also do testing. Let's say if it's a giant project, for example, we're doing a private island in Argentina of around 500 hectares or more than 1,000 acres. There, we're not going to plant 1,000 acres in one day. We're going to first do it on 1,000 square meters, then a couple of hectares, then 10 hectares, and then little by little grow. And so a lot of frustration, of course, can be resolved by just starting small and then little by little going bigger. And then it's a growing process. And the nice thing is with our clients is that most of the time, and I think maybe it's the law of attraction, but most of our clients really are in the same mindset of wanting the best life for themselves, but also wanting to really collaborate with nature and just having the best of both worlds. And they really become our partners in to regenerating a piece of land, because sometimes we spend 1 week together every year on the property and then really live together 24/7 and go through everything together, and it really creates a bond. And it's not like, oh yes, now we're going to present this, okay, have a good day. No, then we're going to have dinner, then we're going to have lunch, then we're going to take the quad and go outside to see the sunset, then we're going to take the quad to the other side of the property to see the moonrise, and then we're going to like toast and drink some champagne to celebrate that our first trees didn't die. And then we're gonna get stuck on the boat because some things happen, and then we have to resolve that issue together. So it's an adventure as well. So that does create a bond.
Very, very. It's just you can hear it in your voice. It's just how not only does it help your clients, it helps you. It creates a bond that nobody can really like. You're gonna be the go-to guy from now on when it comes to that, right? And that's how you build those relationships, and I think that's where the world's going, or I hope, anyways. So, what can individuals do to start doing this on their own? Like, start building their own food forests.
Well, of course, I would advise them to read my book, because it's a lot easier to like know the ins and outs of it. But again, I do also give courses, for example, and at the end, I also always say, well, burn my book, burn this course, go to the freaking nursery, get some plants and put them in the ground. So at one hand, I would say, yeah, inform yourself, know what you want, start small. But then again, I also say just buy that plant and put them in the ground. Don't overthink it. You really can't go wrong.
I overthought it, and I have 2 raspberry bushes down in my basement that have now died because I forgot about them. So I completely understand that.
Terrible.
I know.
Terrible.
Just do too much on the computer. I really do need to start a food forest that just does it for me. I've kind of run out of topics to go on. Is there anything you think that our audience should know?
Yeah, definitely. That is, I'm all for nature regeneration and saving the planet and saving the climate. But my number one priority is always humanity and yourself. It's always like save yourself first. It's like when you're sitting on an airplane, they always say, well, if the oxygen masks drop, always put on your own your own oxygen mask, and then you can like start helping your family. Because if you first like put it on your first child and then you lose consciousness and then you can't save your second and third child and your husband or wife, then you failed, you know. So first put in your own oxygen mask. And that's the thing with regenerative farming, but with your own landscape design, is that if you think about it, first think about yourself. Make sure that your own needs are met. And one of the most important needs that people have is happiness and health. Nothing goes before happiness and health. And we have clients, like I said, super rich, super average, left wing, right wing, very religious, non religious. So we see all types of people, all type of cultures, but they all have two things in common. They all want their children to be happy and healthy. And that's why, like every discussion you should have about anything, if health and happiness are not on the center of that discussion, then you're not discussing, then you're fantasizing. Because those two things are the basic of everything. And when you have your property and you want to do something, then your own health and happiness is like number one priority. The food we are eating today is making us sick. Like 1 in 3 persons is chronically ill. That's not normal. We have like a new iPhone every 2 years. We have a new car every 5 years. That doesn't make us happy and healthy. Okay, maybe it's always like gives you a moment of happiness to have your new iPhone or your new car. I love cars or iPhones as much as anybody else. But like happiness and health, that really comes from your body, you know? And your body comes from the soil, and we need to restore that soil gut connection, because you are not a human. I'm not a human. More than 50% of our cells are non-human. They're all little creatures, microorganisms that are regulating everything. We don't have to consciously think about it, thank God. You know, they are doing everything. They're like keeping the balance, keeping the acidity not too high, not too low. They fight the bad guys. But if we sterilize ourselves with hand gels or by nuking our food, then it's very logical that we're not healthy. So investing in your own property is really investing in your own health.
And for those who don't have their own property, I suggest reaching out and finding where your community gardens are at, and any way, shape, or form that you can grow your own food, even if it's on the balcony in a little thing.
Yeah.
Where can people reach you? And do you have anything upcoming?
Oh yeah, of course. They can reach me via my website, louisdj.com. Or if you want to buy my book, it's SOS Save Our Soils. You can buy it on Amazon. For people who don't like Amazon, I recently created Books By thing. That's, I think, Books By /Louis DJ or something, where you can like circumvent Amazon. And of course, yeah, I'm active on social media as well. If you just put in Louis De Jaeger, any social accounts, you'll be able to find me.
Okay, and I'll make sure
Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, what's coming up? Yeah, the movie Eat More Trees. That's very looking forward to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure everything's in the show notes down below. Thank you very much for coming on, and I hope my audience got a lot from this. To everybody out there,
Perfect.
stay weird.
Bye-bye.
This is placeholder media that you'll see if you add a layout to an empty scene. You can go ahead and delete it.